Did you know that you actually have not one, but three brains? You have your head, your heart, and your gut. What we're talking about today on Women Winning Your Way is using your three brains to help you live your truth. We want to make sure that you are creating the most impactful, well lived life that you can create. And you cannot do that unless you are living in alignment. This episode is going to blow your mind. It's going to help you really look deeper into making sure that you are not living for others, but you are living for yourself. I'm Clara Capano, and this is Women Winning Their Way. Here at Women Winning Their Way, we talk about the importance of self-care. With it being open enrollment for health insurance, we have partnered with Leela Smith, the owner of Etta and Associates, who is licensed in over 30 states, to make sure that all of us have the best coverage for ourselves and our families. I've been a client of Etta and Associates for over 2 years, and I feel 1,000% confident that I'm covered for all of my basic needs, along with any unexpected surprises. Your health matters, so make sure that you are covered. Call or text Leela's team today and set yourself up with a free consultation to review your coverage options and to ensure that you and your business are protected. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Women Winning Their Way. This one is one that I have been waiting for months. I met our guest at a speaking event, and as I listened to her on stage, she was checking off all the boxes of the perfect, most ideal guest that I could give. And when she got off the stage, I ran right over to her and I'm like, I have to talk to you. So she graciously has agreed to be here. So Jill Osur, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we're going to dive into a lot of things, both business and life, kind of talking about the theme of alignment and living in our truth. But before we do that, the first question I have is, the title of the show is Women Winning Their Way. When I say that to you, what comes to your mind? What does that even mean to you?
I think honestly, it's living your authentic self.
Mhm.
And we talk often about being in alignment, but and being around like-minded people, but I think it's like-hearted people and like soul and energy people. And I think so many women put everyone else first and
Mm.
sometimes forget to listen to their body and to be in alignment. And we're living a life that we were taught, right, or programmed that we're supposed to have versus what feels authentic to you. And so that's what came across my mind when you said that.
Perfect. And that's kind of what I want to dive into a little bit more is, you just mentioned, so many of us are living this quote unquote truth that others have told us, but we're not living our own truth. And when we are not living authentically, we're just not going to have that fulfillment. And I think so many times we get caught up in the guilt of living for others and hurting others that we put our truth on the back burner. And I would love if you could be so open, because I know this has come up for you a couple of times in your world. It came up in your business world. You started off in the corporate industry, and then you changed and you started and went into entrepreneurship and starting a winery, which is high risk. And then you also leaned into this in your own personal life. So I would love to just kind of maybe have you tell us a little bit of, how you gained the courage and the bravery to stop living for others and to start living authentically for yourself.
That's a lot to unpack.
I know.
So here we go. For me, yeah, I was in the corporate world. I was in the nonprofit world. I know enough about myself that I know I'm driven by altruism. Yes, I love the finer things in life, but I'm not driven by money or power. I really want to make a difference in the world. And I think I was born that way, but I was also taught that way growing up, and that was a beautiful gift that I was given by my family. But then, I was a collegiate athlete. I learned early how to live in my masculine energy, and how to win and win meaning, a lot of that was win at all cost. And, and if you don't win, you just got to try harder, and you've got to be this and you've got to be that. And, I got married right out of college when I was 22 and started having children when I was 26. So I have three beautiful adult children now. And when anyone would look at my life, they would say that my life was amazing, right? I had this tall, handsome husband. I had three beautiful children, a big house, a nice car. I was a senior executive at Special Olympics Northern California, which I loved, and I loved my children growing up in that environment. And so by all outward appearances, I was happy and successful. Yet I was so lonely inside, and I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't seem to navigate the change, and that was the big challenge for me. I always knew when I came up to Berkeley that I wanted to be in the wine industry because I loved how wine connected people, and I didn't know how to do that. And I think one thing in hindsight that I've learned, and this is a mistake I think a lot of women make, is that we believe that we need someone else to start a business. We need another partner for the things that we don't have. And I kept thinking, well, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CFO. How am I going to make this happen? So instead of finding a seasoned executive, in my mind, I thought I needed a partner, right? A partner that we would own the business together and we would start that. And that presented itself. And so I got into the wine industry, and we were successful. But when the crisis of COVID hit, I realized that, I've been leaving the best part of myself at the door on most days to make my male partners happy. And I was in an industry that is still very dominated, steeped in tradition and dominated by men. And when I would speak up, I would get lashed out at. And even though I was getting the messages, it's, we want you to speak up and we want you to lead. But when I did, it was like, you're being too aggressive and you're being too, to this, to that. And all of that was taking a toll on my body, but I wasn't paying attention. And, being again, driven by altruism and doing the right thing when Black Lives Matter was in full force in the beginning of COVID. For me, I said, we have a diversity of investors and employees and customers. We need to speak up and make a statement. So I said to the four members of our executive team, three are men and myself, and I said, why don't I craft something, and if we're in agreement, we'll post it. And so we did. And the next morning, I woke up and there was an email addressed to the four of us. At least the email was sent to the four of us, but it only said, "Dear Jill." And it was from one of our largest investors. And he said, "How dare you post in support of Black Lives Matter? This post is going to damage me personally and professionally. And if you don't take it down, I'm going to ask for your resignation. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to hire attorneys to sue our own company." And my first thought was, well, how could a post in support be seen as so divisive? And it was a really challenging week. I mean, while we had wine bloggers praise us for being one of the first companies to be out in front and take a leadership position on this important topic, we had other wine club members quit because they had the same belief that this investor had. And so we met at the end of the week because he kept demanding that our board meet, and that I continue to push for me to resign. And our board met and we voted that we would keep the post up, but we also voted that moving forward, we would never use our voice or our platform in support of any social issues. And so that really was my wake-up call because I was the only dissenting vote. And as I started to look more into my own industry, I realized that there's only 10% female winemakers and 0.1% Black winemakers, men and women, that female sommeliers are still making 84 cents on the dollar to their male counterparts. And yes, there are women in tasting rooms, but when you look at the industry as a whole, there are very few women in leadership positions and even fewer women of color. And yet over 76% of all wine is purchased by women. And the industry doesn't reflect its largest customer. So I know I was put on this earth to use my voice. I'd grown up being on the front line of many social and racial justice fights, and I was a catcher at Cal. So using my voice was always instrumental to my success. And I had become very tamed. And so I decided to leave that company and start a company where I could be in true alignment and integrity with my own self. And because, one of the things that I realized in this journey, and this is so important to the message that we're talking about, was my throat was hurting constantly. And I had like a lot of pain in my chest and my stomach, and I wasn't paying attention to my body. And I reached out to Dr. Brenda Wade, who's a holistic psychologist and a former hard brain scientist, which I didn't know at the time. And I was telling her about like what I was the struggle I was feeling, and how to navigate this. And she said, you need to listen to your body, because science says that we legitimately have three brains: our head, our heart, and our gut. And
Mhm.
our gut is actually our first brain to fire, and it sends signals to every single cell in your body. And especially as women, we know how powerful intuition is, and we often just don't pay attention to the signals. My throat was hurting because I couldn't speak my truth. And so I was feeling a lot of physical ailments, and I was just doing what I was taught to do: just grind it out, right? Just work harder, grind it out, just keep pushing. And then I just said, for what? Right? I'm doing the right thing. We're speaking up and doing the right thing. And maybe this isn't just the right fit for me. And so I left that company in June of 2020, and literally launched Teneral Cellars in October 1st of 2021, because starting a wine company in the beginning of COVID is a really smart thing to
Oh,
do.
yeah.
But for me, I wanted to build a company that harnessed the power of business for good and used wine as a conduit for change. So when we open a bottle, we open those necessary conversations. But then I could also bring women into leadership positions and be part of the solutions that I want to see. And so we built a whole model of, giving back. So we donate 10% of profits back to organizations that empower women and fight for gender and racial justice. And we support, some really phenomenal charities. So that was my way of like now starting to show up where I could be in full alignment and integrity, with my head, heart, and gut. And when that happens, it's like this click, 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 and you feel like, doesn't mean difficult things aren't going to happen, but at least that you are thinking about all the stakeholders and everyone, and really doing the right thing for humanity, not just the business.
I love when you started talking about that. I physically got chills, when you talked about that. And, the idea of when you uncork the wine, again, that's what brings us together and gets the conversations, and how you are using this, as a way to give back. And I remember, looking at, a lot of your labels, and um, all your different, what I'm trying to think of the name for that, I forget now. All your different brands, they
The
all
themes that we would do. Yeah.
the names that
Yeah.
you use all go back to things, and they have images. I also know that you were very strategic in getting the logo for Teneral Cellars, which is a dragonfly. And
Yeah.
we talked about that, and it really stuck with me. I even think I might have wrote a blog on it. But share with us a little bit, why the dragonfly?
Well, it's interesting. My daughter Jordan and I would watch Gilmore Girls at nauseum when she was younger, and it was a dragonfly in, so it became a point of connection with my daughter and I. But as I got older, and more in touch with my spirituality, I'm very spiritual, and the dragonfly is a symbol of hope, and it reminds us to be the light, and it's a symbol of transformation. And the beautiful thing about dragonflies is there's not a culture in the world where the dragonfly isn't seen as a positive symbol of hope, love, new beginnings, and transformation. And so just seeing the dragonfly brings a smile to people's face. And the word teneral is actually when the dragonfly comes out of its cast and it's in its most vulnerable state, and its wings are colorless and it can't fly. But within a few days, it gets its full colors in its wings, spreads its wings, and takes off with amazing power and grace, or grit and grace. And for me, that represents all women. We all have that power within us. We just have to claim our power, spread our wings, and fly. And in my own story, I was that vulnerable dragonfly, leaving the best part of myself at the door on most days to make my male, partners happy. I had to claim my own power, spread my wings, and fly. And it's interesting because you asked sort of about my own personal journey. When I started Teneral Cellars, I was like, "Oh, I have made it. I've arrived. I'm living my authentic, true self, and you know, everything's just going to be great." And I hadn't been really connected to my ex-husband for 10 years, although we weren't divorced. And I had moved up to the wine industry country, kind of going back and forth, and thought, well, you know what, I'll get around to filing for divorce. But then I started to sort of do an internal inventory. And I think as women, again, we put everyone else first, and, raising our kids and sacrificing and doing all of those things. And I just thought I could just put that off. But then I started to say, well, I'm telling others to check in with their head, heart, and gut to be in full alignment and integrity with their own self. What are you doing, Jill? And so I finally picked up the phone and made the call to file for divorce. And it was so interesting because in that moment, I literally felt like a 50-ton weight was dropped from my shoulders. But then I had to start doing my own work because I started to, on my own journey, realizing that with pleasing everyone else my whole life, I didn't even know how to love myself. And so I needed to start that own journey. And something that really helped me on that journey was Glennon Doyle's book Untamed,
Yeah.
which is why our wholesale line is called Untamed. A friend of mine gave me that book when I started Teneral Cellars because she writes about how the world starts to tame girls by the time they're 8 and what to wear, what to say, what to act, all of this. And I love the book. I mean, I literally have listened to it over and over again on an audiobook because Glennon narrates that.
Mhm.
But I actually fell in love with the love story in the book and her story of being married to a man and then falling in love with Abby Wambach and didn't even know who she was when she walked in the room because Glennon wouldn't know a sport if it hit her on the side of the head. But I said to myself, who wouldn't want that kind of extraordinary love? And it's funny because I played softball at Cal. There's always been two assumptions made about me. One is that I've kissed a woman, and two is that I was already gay. And people assume that because I have a beautiful rainbow of friends in my world. And I've always been an amazing ally. And I just said, I'm open to anything. And and when I started to learn to love myself, because I realized I couldn't have an extraordinary relationship with someone else if I didn't first have a love affair with myself and learn to love me. And that was a big part of my journey. And I think as I speak, this is what resonates with so many women. We don't know to just love ourselves for all of our imperfections and flaws and cellulite and all of that. Like, we're beautiful human beings. And I've learned to look at my body in a very different way. This body has birthed, 3 beautiful children. And yeah, I have a lot of imperfections. And sometimes I would challenge myself because I work out so hard, but it's not even about that. I just have to learn to love the vessel that I'm on this earth in. And so I started my own journey and I kissed a woman and realized that I was home. I'm engaged to an amazing woman, Lisa, and she's now my business and life partner. And I would wish extraordinary love for everyone like we have. But I also realize that you have to love yourself before you're capable of that. And I think the universe waited till I learned all the lessons I needed to stop shrinking and dimming my light to make other people happy. And then when that happened, they said, okay, here she is. And I really believe that. And I think too many of us, we are just always going, okay, well, I'll just dim my light a little bit because that's
Mhm.
what he wants or she wants. And we need to stand in our authenticity and our true selves.
Do you know that less than 75% of people do not get enough sleep? I know for years that this was something I struggled with. I would fall into bed exhausted, only to then toss and turn all night long and wake up feeling unrested. Sleep is critical to our health, well being, and productivity. I am so excited to partner with Lisa Gibb and Sam V, who have crafted the perfect night's sleep. We cannot walk around like sleep zombies the next day. Lisa and her team at Sam V understand this. And with over 40 years of quality craftsmanship, Somvi sheet sets are designed to create a perfect environment to offer you a restful night's sleep. They use the highest quality fabrics and they have products that focus on temperature regulation. Ladies, you know what I mean about that. With their products that include mattress enhancers to sheet sets, lots of different kinds of unique pillows, comforters, blankets, and more. They literally have you covered and ready for a quality night's sleep. All the products with Somv will wrap you in luxury each and every night. The people at Somv are committed to one thing: a quality night's sleep. So connect with Lisa Gibb, your personal sleep consultant, and build your personal and luxury sleep package today. Connect with Lisa at www.lisagibb.somnvie.com. Invest
in your rest with Psalm V today.
It's such a powerful message. And, on the surface, we can all say that. I know as I went through my divorce, one of the things, because like you, I had a great ex husband. I mean, he's a wonderful man, great father, great earning potential, all of those things. But I didn't feel I could be my best self with him. And I didn't feel he could be his best self with me. And, we're sold this thought concept, as you've talked about a few times, that putting ourselves first is selfish. And so we do that. Talking about this, it's easy to say and to cheer people on and say, no, live your life, go after your dreams. But it's a lot harder when you're in it. So, looking back over everything you've gone through, if you were sitting in front of someone right now who is holding back, they're staying in that relationship for the kids or for the earning power or because they don't want to upset their parents, if they're staying in that job because, they're a fifth generation attorney or doctor and they don't want to do it, how would you talk with someone about listening to themselves, about understanding that it's okay for them to breach the traditional stereotypes and how it's going to be more beautiful on the other side? Because when they're in it, it's scary and it's hard.
It's very scary. I look back. I mean, I should have got divorced decades before.
Mhm.
Like you said, my ex-husband is a wonderful man and a great father. I think we got married so young that, by the time I was in my 30s, like we weren't a good match. And I definitely stayed together for the children, and I don't know that that served my children, honestly. And I think if when we start to question the all the systems and the programming that we've got, and even this idea that you should have one person in your entire life and that's it, and just grind it out and make it work, who does that benefit?
Mhm.
I mean, really, if it's not a good fit, wouldn't our children be better served if they saw their parents being truly happy and living their authentic lives? So I would tell anyone listening, first thing to do is to do an internal audit and to check in with your head, heart, and gut on
Mhm.
any decision, right? Before you open your mouth and before you sacrifice or put somebody else first, check in with your head, heart, and gut and see how it feels. See if your stomach gives you, your gut gives you a reaction, or see how your heart feels, or see if your throat tightens up because you're not going to be speaking your truth. Because
Mhm.
I will tell you on the other side, even though there might be some, challenging times in the transition, there's freedom on the other side. And freedom is healthy. I feel like now being free, no matter how tough things are, I almost feel like I'm going to be now for sure in the blue zone and be a centurion because I'm happy. And happiness, the cortisol that you release and all of that. And again, I think for me, I had to do an internal audit, like what was important to me. Was having a big car important to me? Was having a big house? I realized that none of that even matters to me. Like finding true extraordinary love and even loving myself is I feel like no matter what happens, if I lived in a shack, I would be happy now. I mean, honestly. And I think that that's what people have to realize. And again, look, the whole entire wine industry is down right now. It's a really tough time. Now, historically, we're well, we're being told that everything will adjust again, but it's really tough. But do I want to go through a tough time being authentically me? Or do I want to go through a tough time being pretending to be what I think the world wants me to be? And I realize that I've heard from so many women and even men when they realize they're not showing up as their authentic self, that when they do, it's freedom. And there's amazing possibility. And I think that's where you have to learn to love yourself so that you can trust yourself to know that even if I have the courage to leave a relationship or leave a job and go find something else, you have to believe in yourself and you have to love yourself enough to know that you're worth that. And that's the biggest challenge, right? Is it is tough for a lot of women in particular to leave a secure household. But
Mhm.
I just can't emphasize how many women I've talked to who are on the other side who say, I wish I would have done that earlier. And it's important to surround yourself with good people,
Yeah.
and not people that will just say yes, people that will challenge you, that love you and that will support you, but will be there when you have, the challenging times and when you just don't feel like going forward or you're having a really stressful day and you need those people, but you've got to really align yourself with like-hearted and like-spirited people, not just like-minded people who will say yes. And but I will tell you, the freedom on the other side is a really, really beautiful thing.
That's so fantastic. So, I literally could talk to you probably for a week because you are not only, strong. I mean, you're just a beautiful human being. You're coming from your heart, like you talked about, you're very altruistic. Everything is about, going forward and giving to others. And I know you're also a big proponent and advocate for women run businesses. Why do you think it's so important that as women, we are also really looking to invest in other women?
Well, listen. I mean, listen. Here. Yes, and you're gonna put me up on a soapbox now because I'm just gonna. You're not. I'm just gonna put myself on a soapbox right now. I mean, here's the deal. Look, we're regardless of where you are politically, you know, women are in a position we've never been in, or we have been in, but it's been a long time, and we shouldn't be in that position. We're 52% of the population. And I feel like with all the things that we have to fight for, the one thing we don't have to fight for is, you know, how we use our wallet. Let's vote with our wallet. If women just supported other women, we could move billions of dollars in the economy in an instant. And so I'm a huge proponent of, if you're a business owner, who are your vendors? Like I bought a new business last year or a year and a half ago, our new location. And so I inherited some vendors, but I soon then started to transition those vendors to women owned vendors because, there is statistics that show that companies that are more diverse and run by women and have women in the company are healthier bottom line businesses. And we also know they tend to care about humanity and others. And so the first thing I did was say, okay, I need a fulfillment house. Let me find a women-owned one. Wasn't easy, but I happened to find one, and they happened to be the closest one to me, ironically. And then where do I get my glass? Women-owned business. Who prints my labels? Women-owned business. I think, it's interesting. I posted something a while ago because I don't have any loyalty to any tahini companies, but I needed some tahini for a recipe. So I went to Whole Foods and I looked on the shelf and there was like 4 jars of tahini and I didn't know any of them. And so what did I do? I just picked them up and turned them around and one of them had the women owned logo on it. I'm like, well, done. Done. We have to be intentional. And I think this is where we are not serving each other is be intentional, not just where you buy your retail products, but if you own a business, look at your vendors. If all of us just took one vendor that wasn't minority or women owned, and switched it to women or minority owned, I mean, the impact we would make in the economy and the world, because again, these companies hire more women and have
Right.
a more diverse workplace. So this is on us.
Yeah.
But this is an easy thing to fix. This isn't like some of the other things, our rights and all of that we're fighting for. This we have control over because we are the majority of the population. And interestingly enough, women have the most wealth. We just don't control it. So this is
Ah.
also where I've even talked to some very wealthy women. I'm like, well, who's your investment advisor? Well, it's a guy. It's like, we need to think about that because women financial advisors will make different kinds of investments. And so we need to think about our entire, chain of everything that we do in our lives. And are we taking control of the things that we can?
Fantastic. That's a great soapbox to be on. I love that.
Well,
So,
it's so simple though, right? I mean,
like you said, it just, I mean, yeah, just, take that extra initiative. So,
well, you know what? I have people who say I can't join your wine club because I have too many others. And I said, well, how many of them are women owned? How many of them sustainably farm and produce their wines? So good for the environment. How many of them give back 10% of profits to organizations that empower women and fight for gender and racial justice? Drop one of the other ones. Support a company that's doing, so where your purchase is with purpose and the company's doing well by doing good. And this is, again, it's being conscious and intentional.
fantastic. Jill, we have covered so much today, and I just am so appreciative of you and everything you're doing. Thank you for sharing your journey because it is so powerful to hear, the courage that you've had and again, how you're continuing to not only fight for yourself, but to fight for others. And all that you're doing, I know that you still have other things going on. So what is next for Jill? What are you working on right now?
Well, the winery is wonderful, and it's, we have a beautiful location. We have a 5-star boutique hotel on the property, and we bought the property because it's a beautiful place to purpose. And so, I really want to do more work to bring people there to retreat. When you come visit, people are like, it feels like you're in Tuscany without the airfare, and it's in Plymouth, California, an hour northeast of Sacramento. So continue to grow the business, but also continue to talk, and to talk around leadership, and leveraging full capacity thinking, which is your head, heart, and gut brains. And I think we have to do that, and we have to question traditional leadership that says that it's all about the intellect. But if intellect could solve our problems, we wouldn't be in the wars we are in this world, and we wouldn't be in the issues. So clearly intellect alone doesn't solve our issues. So I want to continue to speak about that, and to hopefully give women, a safe space to talk, but also to find the courage to make the change they need to, so that they can find and live their true authentic life.
That's fantastic. Amazing. So, the last question that I have for you is, sitting where you sit today, knowing everything that you know up until this point, how do you define success for yourself today?
It's very simple. I think it's living my true authentic self. Bottom,
Mhm.
stop. And it's eh, you know being financially sustainable is definitely important, but I think success is truly about living your true authentic self.
That's amazing. So, again, Jill, thank you so much. It's been such a gift, getting to know you and following you. And I just am so excited to see everything that's going to come and all the impact that you're going to unlock doors for. So, thank you so much for being a guest on
Oh,
the
I
show.
so appreciate that, and all of your listeners too. Let's add a discount code so that they can buy holiday gifts, and you make a wine purchase with purpose, because it does make a great gift, and every bottle has a conversation starter on it, so that you can have amazing conversations around award-winning wine.
Perfect. Well, we're going to put all your information, your winery information, and we'll get that coupon code and we'll put it all together. So, we'll have it all in the show notes.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Jill. This has just been probably one of my favorite episodes for so many reasons. Jill, she's just it. She's got that clarity that you only learn from life experiences. Talking about how she went through those iterations of her life of making sure that she was living for herself in her business, breaking free and creating a women owned, women and diversity focused business to be able to impact and give back, leaving a marriage that wasn't serving her, even though the people in it were ones that she loved and cherished, knowing that it wasn't her true north and her home. And that what we learn is that freedom is on the other side. Some of the other things that she talked about is, that we have to make sure that you are again living in alignment with your heart, your head, and your gut, listening to your body. She gave the idea that her throat was hurting her because she had lost her voice. She talked about the idea that we can change so much when we are focused on investing and partnering with other women run and diversity run businesses, and how, as women, we make up 52% of the population. Let's start speaking with our pocketbooks and let's start making that change so we can impact others. The idea of, don't live for outward appreciation, live for your own inward appreciation. This is an episode you got to share. Also, let's share it now, because if you are a wine lover like me, you can go to Teneral Cellars. Again, everything is in the show notes. And let's make sure, enter in coupon code CLARITY and you can get 25% off. So not only can you toast and cheer on the holiday season, you can also do it in a way that's going to give back and impact so many others. So make sure that you are subscribing, liking, and rating this show, Women Winning Their Way, and make sure to support another woman out there, Jill Osur and Teneral Cellars, and let's make sure that we are impacting the world one wine bottle at a time. I'm Clara Capano. Thanks for being here for another episode of Women Winning Their Way.